So we are live streaming now via YouTube. I just want to welcome everybody in. Thank you so much for joining us for our mental health first aid with Chief Tyran Payne. I'm going to take a couple minutes and do a brief introduction of Chief Payne, and then I'm going to pass the mic and let him get started. So Chief Tyran Payne is a veteran of the United States Army Police Corps. He's a mental health first aid educator, a founding board member of the Yavapai College Justice and Mental Health Coalition, and a graduate of multiple FBI trainings and leadership institutes. Chief Payne is uniquely equipped because of those wonderful things in his amazing life to protect, serve, and problem solve for both sides of the law. Chief Payne has joined the Yavapai College Police Department after 10 years of military service and is working for both the Prescott Valley and Chino Valley Police Departments in his past life. He played a critical role in helping Yavapai College become one of the first community colleges in the nation to become accredited by the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators. Chief Payne has a passion for connecting with veterans regarding mental health and wellness, and he balances his Yavapai College Police Department and volunteer responsibilities with raising a family of 5 with his lovely wife. Chief Payne earned his associate's degree in criminal justice at Yavapai College and is pursuing a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Northern Arizona University. Without further ado, I will pass the mic to Chief Payne.
Good morning, and thank you very much for that, Sarah. I have to apologize to the group. I'm on the tail end of the flu, but I was not going to miss this time with you guys this morning. So my voice is going to be a little cracky, a little off. But that's why. So I apologize. Right out the gate, just hit you guys with that. Just know that I'm coming out of the flu, and so I'm almost there, but I'm not quite. So thank you for having me this morning. For such a very important topic, mental health first aid crisis. We here in Yavapai County, I think, are trying to do something a little bit different. I'm sure it's not the first of its kind, and I'm sure it's being done across the nation. We have a Yavapai County Justice Mental Health Coalition, as Sarah mentioned, and we are trying hard to decriminalize and destigmatize mental illness. What we found in our studies is that people don't seek immediate attention when they're in crisis or suffering from mental illness because of the stigmatization and because the criminalizations that are associated with suffering from mental illness or being in crisis. And we're trying hard here, not just at Yavapai College, but our county in general, to fix that. We don't want, no one should live in fear of reaching out for assistance or help. So a few years ago, our sheriff's department reached out to National Council in Washington, D.C., and they brought mental health first aid to our county. And a handful of law enforcement officers and educators got certified as instructors to teach this. And honestly, I'm just going to be straight up and forward with you guys this morning. I've hit a point in my career that I don't teach or get involved in anything I don't believe in or I have a passion for. And I really have a passion for mental health first aid and crisis response. And the reason being, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but mental illness is something that is personal to me specifically in dealings with my family members. So again, thank you guys for having me here this morning. And we're going to go ahead and get into this. So you see here on this first slide, mental health first aid and crisis response, the CPR for mental illness. And I believe that. I'm sure a few of you in this audience are CPR and first aid certified. This is kind of the CPR and first aid for mental illness. And when you receive the training, it's an 8-hour block of instruction. You basically are trained to recognize signs and symptoms of psychosis, drug-induced psychosis, all kinds of mental disorders, basically to allow you to be a resource to your community to get them hopefully to that next level of care. So we say it's a CPR for mental illness because it is. You're that EMT, that paramedic that shows up first responder on the scene to help that person with any resources that they might need. Also, the training should hopefully make it so that you're not fearful of assisting someone you see in need in the public. So that's the good thing about mental health first aid. I've been in law enforcement since I was 18 years old. I started in the Army. And I wish I had this training earlier in my career. And I didn't. I have no formalized education or background in mental health response or crisis response other than dealing with these situations in the field, in a person's home, in uncontrolled environments. And maybe that's the best place for me to have learned how to become so proficient with mental health first aid and crisis response. But it's funny because now at this point I'm starting to get more training in behavioral health, to gain more of an advanced knowledge on how to be a resource to my students and my community. So here we go. What is mental health first aid? And the next slide is going to go even deeper what mental health first aid is. Mental health first aid is a link to the next level of care. It is designed to strengthen our communities through education and information. A trained mental health first aid responder is a resource for someone that has found themselves in need of help. We have got to, as a nation, remove the stigma, the negative stigma around mental illness. And we also, again, have to decriminalize it. And trainings like this are what get us there, to not be afraid to have these conversations. It's like talking about racism, and all the other hard conversations that we find ourselves engaging in these days. So this is just another one of those hard conversations that honestly, folks, we have got to start having to start to be better community members. So a little bit more on what mental health first aid is. I'll let you guys go ahead and read this because I don't want to lose my voice halfway through this presentation. But this goes into more detail about what mental health first aid is, what the 8-hour block of instruction is. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview as far as what mental health first aid training is, but I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds. We do talk about anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, addictions, drug-induced psychosis. We don't go deep into those illnesses, but we do kind of scratch the surface so that you have an idea when you see it, you can hopefully respond to it. Or if you don't feel comfortable responding to it, you can recognize it and maybe call someone else into the conversation to help you deal with this, deal with what you're seeing. You know, when I hate saying deal with what you're seeing because it's not fair. You're not dealing with anything. You're being a resource to someone that is in need of help. So hopefully going through this training, you'll be more of a resource to someone that is in need of help. So I'm going to play a quick video for you. It's about 12 minutes long. And this is one of the training videos that we give to our law enforcement officers here in Arizona. And it talks about what mental health is or what mental illness is.
Chief
We
Payne,
good on sound?
can you pause it and then click the up arrow or go to the screen share? And then share your sound. There should be a small box down at the bottom corner. So if you click share screen and Zoom.
Okay, share screen and Zoom.
In the actual Zoom room itself, not within your PowerPoint, but within the presentation. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Got you. Share screen and Zoom. Okay.
There should be a small box down at the bottom left corner that says share computer sound.
Share computer sound. Got it.
Click that box and then you can go back into your presentation and hit play and we should be good to go.
Okay. How's that?
Nope, just kidding.
No.
Do I have tech support?
I don't know.
Tyler,
Share
am I missing
screen.
something?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
No, so yeah, he should be able to, I mean, yeah, that should be how it should work.
Let me try it again, you guys. Hold on one second. I did something
Okay.
else. Share screen, share. Let's try this.
Welcome to Unit 2. Mental illness.
We hear it now. Good to go.
Oh, you hear it? Okay. But I gave you guys the wrong screen.
No, we got the right screen. You're good.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Is a disease, not a choice.
Still good?
Mental illnesses are physical brain disorders that profound. profoundly disrupt a person's ability to think, feel, and relate to others and their environment. A person that is suffering from a mental illness may exhibit certain symptoms that can appear as odd behaviors or symptoms.
We do our best to sort of define mental illness and what mental illness is, but that definition is very much influenced by what we believe is a society, what we believe is normal, what we believe is not normal, what is taboo.
Mental illness is a clinical term, and it depends who you ask what mental illness is. Mental illness in itself, starting with mental, is defined by a cognitive behavioral psychologist as having illness related to the mind. And the mind, in their opinion, would control emotions and behavior.
The definition of mental illness is a medical condition that is also known as a brain disease or a brain disorder that affects people's thoughts and feelings and creates challenges for them to interact with people around them.
But if you asked a behavioral health psychologist what mental illness is, they would say that it actually is stemming from behavioral issues, and it influences the mind and emotions from that perspective of behavior first.
A mental illness is basically a disorder of the brain. It can be from a few different causes that creates a variation in thought patterns and behavior patterns and such things based on the way the brain works.
And then if you asked a sociologist, they would say that it's a socio-ecological problem that is leading to these issues. So it really depends who you ask, right? Of course, you would expect that from a psychologist to say it depends, right?
The definition of mental illness is a cognitive or a mental impairment that a person may suffer.
A mental disorder that affects thinking, mood, and behaviors. And these thoughts and moods and behavior changes can significantly affect daily life activities.
You're looking at any sort of impairment in social, behavioral, biological functioning, and it has to cause distress as well as some disability.
There are a wide range of behaviors or symptoms a person with a mental illness may suffer from, including irrational behavior, rambling, talking to oneself, wild or attention-seeking behavior, violent outbursts, withdrawal, disorganized thoughts, antisocial behavior, paranoia, delusions, hallucinations, and pacing or hypervigilance. For this training, we will focus on 7 major areas of importance: extreme moods, psychosis, dramatically unusual social behavior, anxiety, substance abuse, confusion, and thoughts of suicide.
We know there are many different disorders and there are many different symptoms and different behaviors that you'll see. But we focus on these 7 because they're probably the most common that law enforcement is going to encounter and the most visible that we can see and effectively use to identify what's going on when we're investigating something.
There's a big Bible. It's a mental health Bible that's a diagnostic manual that's about 3 inches thick. So there are a lot of mental health conditions that we are not discussing today.
We have a thick book of diagnostic criteria that you can meet, and we all fit into this book. In fact, that's one of the things that you learn when you're going through grad school is, don't pathologize yourself because you do fit in there somewhere.
There's an infinite number of symptoms or behaviors, and it's pretty hard to narrow it down because you kind of have to know the person to know whether that's abnormal behavior for that individual.
There are many, many symptoms, there are many sorts of behaviors, and as well as symptoms that people can experience for mental illness. And those are just scratching the surface of them.
It's also circumstantial and cultural. Certain behaviors may be considered normal in another culture, but abnormal in the culture in which you're facing yourself with. And so you have to take these kind of circumstances into consideration. Otherwise, you may misidentify a person who may be exercising their spiritual beliefs or such things.
In this unit, our subject matter experts will discuss the first behavior or symptom, extreme moods.
Extreme moods are when people are vacillating between happy, sad, and angry. This can be occurring simultaneously, or it can be happening rather rapidly. And so that can be a concern for anybody who's having contact with that person.
Most of us have our normal ups and downs to everyday life. We have some lows, some highs, some lower than low, some higher than our normal high. But fluctuation in mood is normal. But somebody with a disorder will fluctuate wildly. So their low is the deepest, darkest pit that they have ever been in. They see no way out. It's hopeless. And that would be what we refer to generally as depression. And then the high is an unbelievable high. It feels a lot like meth, actually. You're a Superman. You can do anything. You can be anything. You are everything. You have all this energy. You may not sleep. And it feels incredible. And that we refer to generally as mania.
There's mood disorders, which are generally things like depression, anxiety. A lot of those kind of disorders are related to a person's mood. And you can tell those because things like happiness, sadness, those kind of things are the demonstrations of the moods. And they often relate to things like depression or manic episodes, like when a person is kind of acting erratic and quick-paced. Some of these type of disorders are difficult to differentiate between whether it's a disorder for a mood disorder or whether it's caused by drug or substance abuse.
I think in my time on the street, I've seen people that have displayed this huge range of emotions. But nothing taught me more about the different ranges of emotions than actually having a son that had a serious mental illness. When we started to learn that he was actually diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I really started seeing how his moods would change day in and day out. He would be a different person. So one day you would have contact with this person and he would be kind and loving and generous. And the next day he would be agitated and just mean as all get out and not want to talk to anyone or not want to communicate with anyone.
When people think of extreme moods, they usually think of bipolar disorder. And bipolar disorder took the place of this old school term we used to use called manic depression. And if you think about it, it sits on two sides of one pole. So this is where the bipolar stuff definition comes from. On the top end of the pole, like super top end, is something called bipolar 1 disorder. So it's a manic episode. There is one that's just below that in a bipolar 2 diagnosis that's called just like a hypomania is what it's called. But at the bottom of the pole is depression. And so these extreme moods that people vacillate between could go anywhere along this continuum, but on the extreme ends we have manic and depression symptoms, and that would look, as you would guess, somebody who's depressed would often say it hurts to think. They have no motivation, they feel hopeless, they feel helpless. To get out of bed is a huge task. They block out social relationships. Eating is very difficult. Taking showers is difficult. It has a lot of occupational and social functioning deficits that it affects. So that's an extreme mood on the bottom.
We have very limited data. Suicide is often linked with depression. So a lot of the negotiator type calls that we go on that are not criminal are usually suicidal thoughts, suicidal attempts, and that's usually associated with depression to a certain degree. And then the mania does create some definitely unusual circumstances, late night noises, rapid speech, and people look like they're on drugs, so they may elicit calls on that side of the spectrum.
Someone who is engaging in severe risk-taking behaviors, behaviors that will jeopardize their safety, behaviors that jeopardize their family, that jeopardize their occupational functioning, their social functioning. And so it really is detrimental to that person in a lot of ways because they lose a lot. They lose their health because they are not sleeping properly. They may be hypersexual. They may have excessive spending. They may engage in risk-taking behaviors like jumping out of cars or walking between traffic. So a lot of those extreme behaviors are very prominent in terms of the behaviors that you see.
When you're talking about moods, you're basically going to see a pretty large range of people that are calm, and then people that maybe have like a high anxiety where they're breathing very heavily and maybe their sympathetic nervous system has been activated and they're really extremely agitated and maybe they're in the fight or flight mode.
An officer, when approaching somebody that they believe has mood disorders, needs to be very calm and try to identify the thought process that's going on with the individual, listen to what they're saying, and then to provide feedback and positive feedback such as, I'm here to help you, to obviously identify who they are, their name, and say, I'm Greg, I'm with the Chandler Police Department, because again, if they're in a mood disorder, we want them to know who we are. We want them to know first name, minimum. You can use officer and your first name. And let them know we're here to help you. And then move them into a thought pattern of trying to de-escalate them to where you want them to be, to try to get them to think about other positive things, such as they have family members, they have friends. What can I do for you today? What can I do to help you?
I would say with handling any type of mood that you encounter on the street, you would just have to slow everything down. Take deep breaths yourself. Know that people might become a little irritated because you show up. You might actually cause someone to have that fight or flight response. So I think our job is to really make people feel safe wherever we go. Let them know that we're there to help them, that we're there for them, and we want to help with whatever they're going through.
We used to call bipolar disorder manic depressive disorder because it's those huge swings in highs and lows. And they may not be reciprocal. It's not, I go down and then I go up. You may experience a disorder where you very rarely experience mania, and most time you spend in depression. Or there are people that are generally at a manic level most of the time, and they're always a little bit hyperactive and a little bit on. But generally, when we talk about the extreme moods, we're talking about depression and mania.
We will continue with the next two behaviors or symptoms in Unit 3.
Sorry about that. My finger's getting a little jumpy. So thank you for entertaining my video. The reason why I played that video, I know it was long, you guys. I apologize for that. You can hear me, right? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you, boss.
Good. That is just a very informative video. So I was not going to not play it for you guys this morning. I'm sorry. A lot of information in that video. Again, since I don't have you for 8 hours, I want to get as much information out to you as I possibly can this morning. And that video just, I think, hit the nail on the head as far as to what mental illness is, some different variations of mental illness. Real quick personal story and why this topic specifically is so important to me is they talked a lot about bipolar disorder and the manic phase and the depressive phase. My mother suffered from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, co-occurring mental disorders, diagnosed. And I did not find this out until after her suicide. And why this, again, became so important to me is that finding out that she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia after her death, I thought back over our lifetime of interactions with my mother, and it kind of made a lot of things clear to me that I didn't have an understanding for. And so I remember when she would be in her manic phase, it was a completely different person. Strong Black woman from Philadelphia. You couldn't tell her anything, no matter what. But it was just a different person. And then when she would be in her depressive phase, you couldn't get her out of the house half the time. Even so far to the point that she actually started just like filling her apartment up with just um stuff, just random stuff. So the flows of her disorder, once I realized that she was suffering from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and after receiving some training later on in life, I really spent a lot of time analyzing her life and putting meaning to some of the things that she was going through when she was alive. So again, my mother's situation is another reason why this training and this topic is so important to me, and I think that it needs to get out everywhere, nationwide. So I'm not going to go too deep into that story of my mother, but I just want to thank you for just letting me share that little bit, that little piece with this group this morning. But that again, I just wanted to express why mental health first aid is so important to me. It has a personal meaning to me because I have been affected by mental illness personally. So something that's big in mental health first aid is their algae action plan. So I got to give them a shout out for this. And algae basically is assess for risk of suicide or harm, listen non-judgmentally, give reassurance and information, encourage appropriate professional help, and encourage self-help and other support strategies. This is their mantra. It's weird because I found myself when I do my daily analyze of my personal self, I run myself through algae. Not every piece of it, but I just like to check in with myself to make sure I'm good to go each day. So, but going into a situation, this is a mantra that you can use to kind of put you on task almost immediately, right out the gate. You come into a situation with someone, you want to assess number one for risk of suicide or harm. Scene safety is first. You want to make sure that you are going to be okay to help this person with whatever they're going through. So make sure that the scene is safe, number one. And then you want to assess risk of suicide or harm. And assessing for risk of suicide or harm, you don't want to tap dance around that conversation. You want to get right to it. Are you thinking of killing yourself, harming yourself? Do you want to kill? Do you have a plan to kill yourself? Don't tap dance around. You're not going to plant the seed. If someone has determination to kill themselves, they already are going to do that, and there's nothing pretty much you can do about that. So get right to it. Don't tap dance around that conversation. Once you know you're talking about suicide, you can start to find and develop plans to hopefully get them back to good, that next level of care. This is the hard part, folks. Listening non-judgmentally. I struggle to listen because again, I am from Philadelphia. I love to talk. I don't like to share the stage. So for me to listen is hard. I can be non-judgmental. It's the listening part that I have a challenge with. But if you're going to come into a situation and you're going to be a resource to someone, you have to listen non-judgmentally. And if you know that you cannot be non-judgmental, then maybe this isn't a situation for you to assist with. Please call someone else in to assist you with this problem. Doesn't mean you leave this person alone. It just means you get on the phone, you put your head outside of your office, or you call to someone else to help you with this situation. Because not every situation or problem is built for each individual person. Only you know your limitations. And with mental health or mental illness and crisis, you have got to recognize your limitations almost immediately, or you're going to do more harm than good. So please be mindful of that. Give reassurance and information. When giving reassurance and information, and I think slides later we go into more detail of all this, but I'm just going to give again some quick overviews on it. You're going to be as helpful as you can. Be positive. Don't be negative. Don't make any promises you can't keep. Encourage appropriate professional help. We're going to get into what that is in a little bit here, and encourage self-help and other support strategies. There's tons out there, you guys, from hiking, jazzercise. There's so many other self-help support strategies out there for people nowadays. It's off the chart. So for the risk of suicide, harm, what does it look like? So things to look for: panic attack, aggressive behavior, substance use, non-suicidal self-injury. Some like to coin non-suicidal self-injury as was it cries for help. Um, I don't know. I tend to look in it a little deeper than that. I think if you've gotten to a point where you're willing to injure yourself, I think you're looking more. Yeah, you're not crying for help. You actually need help. So again, but that's that whole stigma, that stigma that we've associated with certain mental illnesses that we have to get away from. We used to uh call people when their moods were fluctuating. Oh, you're being bipolar today. We can't do that anymore, you guys, because it's not fair to people that do suffer from bipolar disorder for us to just throw that out there like it doesn't mean anything. It's just not right to do. And it's up to us as community members to stop that. So be helpful in your approach. You must be very helpful in your approach. Again, not every situation is built, or honestly, not every person is built for every situation. If you recognize that you're not built to help this person, then you need to remove yourself. Maybe not immediately, but you need to call in some backup. Just as a driver is always assessing to ensure safety, mental health first aider is always assessing situations to ensure safety for all involved. As you're assisting this person, you have to be mindful and watching the road of where you're going. You have to look for those body cues, look for the verbal cues. If you find or feel like you're not going in the right direction, then someone has to say something. And you've got to recognize, okay, this is not taking us in the direction we should be going in. I need to call in someone to help out with this situation, in all fairness. And it's okay to do that. We as people struggle to call for help. We want to fix things. Cops are the worst. If you call me, I'm here to fix this. I'm not going to call anybody else because you called me here. I'm the police officer. Well, that's not right. And that's why we're getting this training as well. We're not always the ones that are best built for mental illness or some crisis response. So this training is a good jump off for us, but then it's also to help us get to that next level of care. Plan to talk privately about your concerns. The individual may downplay the seriousness, and that's true. 70% of communication is what? Nonverbal. You have to look for those body cues. Don't pressure. Obviously, we're not going to pressure anyone. Use I statements. I have noticed. I'm concerned or worried. And open-ended questions. Invite them to be a part of the solution. Don't treat people who are suffering from mental illness or in crisis like they're a burden or a problem or they're broken. They're not stupid. They may even know what they did the last time they were in crisis to get themselves out of the situation they were in. So invite them to help you out with this situation if they're able to. That's okay. Listen non-judgmentally. Active listening is not as easy as it sounds. No, especially for me. But I'm trying. I'm a work in progress, and I'm getting better day by day. Are you prepared to express concern without judgment? Very important. You get a lot of people that jump into a situation and they're not prepared to listen non-judgmentally. Right out the gate, they already got this pre-built script of who they think this person might be, and it's just not fair. You got to check all that. You're here to be a resource to this person, so be that in this moment. Can you invest the time to help? Very important. All situations aren't fixed in 10 to 15 minutes. Clear your schedule. If you choose to interject yourself into a situation, be ready to take it to the next level if need be. You may not be able to tap out and go to that meeting that's coming up in 20 minutes. You may have to have someone tell whoever or just whatever that you're not going to make it. You're dealing with a situation right now. So just be prepared to change your schedule if you become a resource to someone. It's not fair for you to kind of tap out to go do something else that's not as important as you being a resource to someone that's in crisis. And I say that because it has happened, I'm sure. Cultural considerations. One of the people mentioned that in the video. You don't want to confuse cultural activities with someone in need of help. And sometimes there might be a cultural aspect to the help they may need. So be mindful of that. This is a melting pot. Our nation is full of different ethnicities, cultures, backgrounds. If that is the case, don't be offended if you become aware of that and have to step out or remove yourself. Just be accepting that, you know what, my number one goal is to get this person the help that they need. So I'm gonna check my ego and just be that resource. And again, there it is. Check in with your feelings. You don't want to be triggered in helping someone, and I have seen that happen as well. And I'm telling you, it can happen. It's happened to police officers. It can happen to the best of us. Be mindful as you're helping this person, you're assisting this person. Be checking in with yourself to make sure that you're good and that you're okay. Because the worst thing that can happen, well, I don't want to say the worst. One of the worst things that can happen is for you to get triggered, and also now be in need of assistance. Do we need to stop for a minute, Sarah, and answer some questions? Or you want me to keep going?
No, you're good. I was just putting in the chat that I really love the check in with your feelings, because you're so right. When you are like connecting with someone else who's having a hard time going through something, just experiencing life in that moment, whether it be even from like a significant mental health component, or I'm just really struggling to overcome this challenge that I'm working on right now. Like understanding where you are sitting in that moment helps you better serve that person.
That's right.
And also helps you figure out whether or not, like, do I need to call someone else, because this is not going to be something I'm going to be great with assisting with because of how I'm feeling or my own history or whatever. I think that's so important. We're so concerned with helping others. Like, oh, I want to help you. I want to make sure you get whatever you need, but we need to do a wellness check for ourselves as well. That's a great point.
Thank you very much for that, Sarah. And that's honestly what got law enforcement in trouble for so long. Because of lack of training, we honestly didn't know what to do with people in crisis or that suffered from mental illness, at least early in my career. And I've been in law enforcement since the 90s, early 90s. And so a lot or the alternative was jail, and that's not fair. And again, that's why the current push nationwide is to decriminalize mental illness, because there should be an alternative to someone that suffers from mental illness. It shouldn't be jail. Even if there's a criminal aspect or a crime that's been committed, what could be causing that revolving door? If we just get this person the help that they need, maybe we'll stop the cycle of them needing to possibly even go to jail. We can deal with the criminal side of this later. Let's get this person the help they need. That's next level of care. And then we can deal with the criminal stuff. So yeah, checking in with your feelings is very important. And yeah, checking in with your feelings as a career field is what we're doing now. And honestly, it's making us, a lot of us, more intelligent and better police officers nationwide. Give reassurance and information. Please be, yes, just reassure this person that this is not the end of the world. You're going to do what you can do to help get them back to good. Reassurance is a statement, comment, or action that helps to remove a person's fears. You definitely want to try and remove the fear. It's a scary situation. Again, I think back over my mother's situation, or my mother's illness when she was alive, and I can only imagine how frightening that was for her. Maybe not the manic phase so much of her illness, but the depressive phase. I just can't imagine how frightening that had to be for her. I also think back over some cases that I've dealt with as a police officer that I've responded to, and how frightening that has to be for someone suffering from schizophrenia in the field. Has to be, again, it's what they're experiencing. And we have to be open to their experience. You don't feed into their experience, but you empathize with what they're going through. That's the important piece. Give hope with facts. Only the facts, you guys. Don't promise anyone or tell anyone anything that you cannot close the deal on. Only the facts when trying to help someone and giving information. With medical conditions, we talk about getting better and recovery. That's what we do. That's all we talk about is recovery and getting better. Okay, we don't focus on any of the negative. They're already in a dark place. So let's try and bring them back to a good place with positive conversation. Mental health first aid, we need to share information about recovery and hope. And we got to try and hopefully keep the conversation there. Again, the person is not stupid. They're just they are just in need of assistance. So we need to be that resource to them. Let them be a part of the solution. Let them aid in getting them back to well. All very important pieces to giving reassurance and information, you guys. When we're encouraging appropriate professional help, so what are we talking about with that? We're talking about medical doctors, psychiatrists. We're talking about advanced practitioners, nurses, practitioners, and physicians, assistants, and some specialize in mental health. Psychologists can diagnose and treat mental health conditions. Social workers, counselors, therapists, long-term crisis support specialists, substance use professionals, certified peer support specialists. We at Yavapai College, we're working on some of this. Sarah and I were talking a little bit ago. You guys have something really good going on at your college. We do have a 6 session option for our students as well. But we would love to one day have an actual counselors on site, even to the point where we had maybe a psychiatrist on retainer that maybe paid a visit to our college monthly for our more advanced cases, because it's that important. I know as a college, our calls for service have seriously increased for mental illness calls. I know it's a nationwide increase, but for our college, our reporting system is Maxient, and I get Maxient reports at least a few times a week from students that are suffering or in crisis. So I know for a fact that our Maxient reports have gone up. I went from maybe getting a Maxient report a few times a month to at least 2 to 3 a week. And that's been consistent for at least the last year. So I'm not going to put it all on COVID, but something's going on. Something's happening nationwide. And all we can do is educate ourselves, people, and try to make sure that should we find ourselves in need of being a resource, we can be that.
Hey, Payne, can I ask you how, is there a time of year, Yavapai College is a community college, but you do have a res life component on your Prescott campus. And I'm wondering, is there a time of year that you experience higher fluxes of calls? I'm thinking about exams and the additional stress, or just moving in and adjusting to, or just starting the semester and trying to adjust to things, or is it a pretty consistent challenge day to day that we just have to navigate?
For the most part, it's, you know what, actually, no, it's not. Good question, Sarah. Beginning of fall semester, kind of, flatline. As we push into finals, midterms, you start to get the increase. And then we go on winter break, we come back, and then I don't know what it is about spring semester. I don't know if it's because the end of maybe graduation is coming for some. But spring is kind of hot and heavy for us with our Maxine reports and our students in crisis. I would say I get more Maxine reports end of fall, early to mid spring, and end of spring semester. Early fall, not so much. I don't know if it's because the students are kind of getting there.
That's really powerful, though. That's really powerful information, though, when you're thinking about like how students are carrying their load. And, we have students in the Zoom room with us now, but how they're carrying their load, and it's like, okay, I made it through fall, but then maybe in spring they're, things are heavier. I know just students that I've experienced on a regular basis here just this semester have expressed that, like, man, my classes are just killing me. Like, I was okay. I felt like I was good. I was in a good spot for fall, and now they're just kind of drowning. And I feel like, to your point that I think you're about to talk about, like that self-help, those coping pieces, those are really big pieces, and reach one, teach one, right? Like if you know these things and you can recognize these things, you can turn around to your peers, to your community and say, hey, wait a minute. Let me offer you a life preserver right now.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. And it's exactly what you said. I think fall, you're coming in, we're kind of happy, we're away. It's college. But then again, yeah, like you said, you start pushing in those midterms and the end of fall semester, and yeah, they increase. And then depending on how fall semester ended, coming back into the spring, maybe you had to take a class that you didn't want to have to retake. So you're kind of already off schedule. So that's what I'm thinking with our students is that going into the spring, I start getting the maximum reports almost immediately, first few weeks in. And I think it's just catch up from the fall semester. Maybe some things happened over winter break as well. You know, our personal lives don't end when we drive on the campus. They come with us. So yeah, and again, early spring, mid, going into the end of spring, yeah, the maximum reports are off the chain. And I just think it's all stress related. Life, school, work, family, you name it. So people, this is very important stuff right here to hopefully help with the stress management, taking care of yourself, checking in with yourself every morning to make sure that you're well. Please utilize these self-help support strategies. This is just a few. There are plenty more out there. I use a few of these myself: family, friends, my faith, exercise. I've actually started reading a lot more as well. And I try to, one day out of the weekend, I try to pick one day to just relax and do nothing. All work gets shut out. My school work is done, and I just try to relax and prepare for the next week, because you can't get burnt out. So please find something to help you remain in a good frame of mind and healthy, because your mental health and your physical health go hand in hand. They're not one. I'm telling you, you got to put them both together. You got to be mentally strong and physically strong to deal with the stressors of today. And there are a lot out there. So please find something. Each day, each morning, I take a moment and I reflect, and it never fails. Every morning, I take a minute to myself before I start my day, and I just make sure I check in with myself to make sure that I'm good to go for the day. And that's how I start my day. And I got that from my dad. I consider him to be one of the smartest men I know. And he just passed that bit of knowledge on to me. And it's been very helpful to me. I've only seen my father angry once. We won't go into that story. And yes, it involved me. But I've only seen that man angry one time in my entire life. And no, we live on, now he lives in Philadelphia and I live out here in Arizona. But even when I call him, no matter what he's going through, he's always in a positive mood. And I think it's because of the support strategy or support things that he's put in place for himself that keep him in check each day. And I also try to do that for myself. And it's very helpful. Anything else on that, Sarah?
No, boss, you're good. I asked the students to kind of chime in the chat for us here. So we've got a little bit of a thread of conversation going while you're working through about, what's their big stressor, what's something that weighs in on them. Because I think it's important to kind of see, where does this fit for me?
Mm-hmm. We want to pause for a minute and talk?
Yes, we've got Miss Jennifer's chiming in, and she's saying that daily life can just be overwhelming sometimes. And she's a mom, she's a wife, she works full time, and she's a full-time student. And graduation is right around the corner, and she does not want to trip up when she's like this close. Yes. That's real, right?
That is real.
Mm-hmm. Brennan is sharing that balancing work life and school life and social life and hobbies and all the things that you want to do, like just trying to find the ability to balance all of that and still manage self is definitely a challenge.
It is, but you're worth it. So yes, please do it.
That part. And Gia is saying that she's starting to feel a little overwhelmed right now as one of her classes started yesterday. So we have what is this, 12-week or 10-week? I think this is a late start 10-week that started yesterday. I can't keep up anymore. And it's requiring 40 observation hours for her. She has 6 papers. And how's she going to do all of this? Plus she's still working, and all the other classes she's currently taking. So yeah, it seems like everything is just kind of piling for a lot of the students.
Okay.
New schedule.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Although feeling a little better than we did in the fall when everything was new. Rachel says she's taking it day by day. which is a
Good.
good strategy, I think, right?
That's a great
Um,
strategy. Take it day by day. Yep.
Yeah. A full-time student on its own is stressful, but she's also trying to have some her time and to do some things that she enjoys doing, which is really speaking to your finding the time to, you got to make time for your wellness or you will make time for your illness, y'all.
Yep. Self-care.
That is true. If you don't make the time, time will make it for you.
Yes, they would. Yes. Yes, the world has a way of keeping you humble. Whatever your
Oh,
beliefs
yeah.
are, that definitely is in play there. So thank you all for sharing that. I think that's really impactful for us as educators to know as well, because we can do what we can to give you opportunities to create space for health and wellness,
That's
to help
right.
you get your schedule under wraps, so you're not stressing so much about it, or to listen non-judgmentally per Chief Payne's instructions.
Thank you. And you students in the group, don't be afraid to reach out to your administrators if you find yourselves being overwhelmed. Again, non-judgmentally, that's very important. And that's why our institutions have got to receive this training as well. It's not, sometimes it's viewed as an excuse, again, that's that stigma, we got to remove all that. If you're being stressed out by it, it's not even the fact that you have a family or work. I don't care if you're just going to school. School can be overwhelming. So imagine that you're not just going to school and you do have a family, you have children, you've got a husband, and you've got a full-time job. Do not be afraid to reach out to someone if you are in need of help, because our responsibility is to make sure that you as students are successful. That's why we're here. There's no other reason for us to be here other than that, to make sure that our students are successful. So please reach out to your administrators if you're in need of help. We challenge our students to do that. And thankfully, a lot of them do. But yeah, please, if you need help, please reach out. So the slide I have up right now is psychosis and mental health first aid. We do go deep in this, well, not really deep, but we do talk about psychosis, withdrawing from family and friends, absenteeism or presenteeism, odd or erratic behavior, declining personal hygiene, cuts or bruises, or in vicious stages of healing, increased self-blame or self-criticism, distorted body image. Distorted body image is basically the way the person views themselves. Thoughts racing, mind going blank. Psychosis is a complete break in reality, you guys. It's very frightening for the person that's suffering or in this psychosis. So we have to learn how to and understand, like the video talked about. Sometimes when you come into a situation, voice, tone, and pitch are very important. You don't want to rise to the level of where someone else already is if you're here as a resource to help. Be non-threatening, because I can promise you, the person that is suffering from this illness or that is in a phase of psychosis, they're in way more fear than you are. It's scary to us, maybe what we see, but I can promise you that what they are experiencing personally is way more fearful for them. So we do go more into detail about psychosis still.
Chief, before you proceed, what is presenteeism?
That is being in the moment so much that you're overplaying everything. You're overbearing. You're like so like your absenteeism, like you're not present or in the moment. Presenteeism is kind of like I usually am when I'm not sick. So it's definitely noticeable. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
I had to look that one up too. Anxiety and panic attacks. I actually have an officer that suffered from an anxiety attack. And he told me how the experience was for him. And I've known this guy for a long time. And the way he explained it was just how it appears here: accelerated heart rate, tired looking, I don't know about the disheveled, because he's a sharp dude, but he said it felt like a heart attack. And all the signs and symptoms that he experienced, he said, you would have thought I was having a heart attack. And if anybody wants to chime in on that piece, because I've never had an anxiety attack before, but when he explained it to me, I can only imagine the fear that he must have been experienced when he was going through that.
Yeah, Jennifer, I see you got your hand up. What's up?
I just really wanted to chime in on the anxiety. Got my camera on so you guys can see. I have them. I've been doing pretty good with managing my anxiety and stress and just trying to pull my whole self together. But to me, the anxiety kind of builds on the smaller things that have happened throughout the day. And when you have reached your maximum of, little small things going wrong, it overwhelms and it just feels like everything's going wrong. With me, the tears start to flow. I've got the deep breathing, and I almost feel paralyzed to everything else that's going on around me. And the more I don't want to say indulge the attack, but the more the length of the attack, the more the thoughts begin to rush in your head of everything that's going wrong. And then it proceeds to what's going wrong from today to what went wrong yesterday, what went wrong the day before, and so on and so on. So it's good to have coping skills to kind of bring you down, to kind of see, hey, yeah, today didn't go so well today, and that's okay. But we got to move past this in order to see what the end of the day is going to be. So whether it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night, you still got a couple of hours till midnight to change things and turn things around. So it's good to kind of ground yourself when you feel it coming, because most times, I want to say 8 times out of 10, you can feel it coming. You know mostly what your triggers are, mostly how things can just roll into an anxiety attack. Sometimes it does catch you off guard and it just happens. My coping thing is to visualize things around me and to keep me grounded. Like, okay, the trees are green, my house is white, my hair is spice copper right now, but that's neither here nor there. But just leveling yourself of being in that present moment to know that we're here right now. No, things did not go the way we wanted it to go, but we got to get to a point where we're calming down. And sometimes it can take up to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour to completely ground yourself and get back to what you were doing and to try again. So it can be.
Thank you.
Mine hasn't been as severe as a heart attack, I don't think. I'm not saying his doesn't. I mean, my anxiety is different from his. So mine is wherever I am, I hold on to the closest thing to me, and it seems I'm paralyzed to that thing.
Okay.
So my last one, I was in my car and my mom was like, what is happening? We're in the middle of traffic and here's this anxiety attack coming on. Luckily, I was able to pull over and I had a grip on that steering wheel like that was and I was paralyzed to the steering wheel. And it took my husband, my kids, my mom, and she was just like, I've never seen this. I don't know what's going on. And she just wasn't prepared to assist me in that moment.
Okay.
So my kids knew not to touch me, but my mom kept rubbing my back, and in her not knowing what to do, she was making it worse.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you just got to learn the people around you, what their triggers are and how to ground them back and bring them down so they can focus on what's happening.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that, girl. Like,
Yeah.
when you live it, it's one thing. When you hear about it, it's another. And I appreciate your vulnerability for sharing that too. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Jennifer, right? That was Jennifer?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's no better teacher than real life experience. Jennifer, did you experience tunnel vision? at all?
Yes.
You did?
I
Okay.
could only look out my window and see, all I heard was the traffic zooming past me.
So
And
auditory as well.
right. In a
Okay.
sense, it almost kind of made it worse because that was my son's birthday party. So in having that anxiety attack, it was like, oh my God, I'm having an anxiety attack. And now we're going to be late for my son's birthday party. So
Okay.
it was his 18th birthday. So I was like, oh my God, Jennifer, get it together.
Uh-huh.
So I was trying to internally calm myself down, but all I could hear was those cars zooming past. My mom was like looking like, and she was in distress herself because she had never seen me have an anxiety attack. So she, not saying she didn't believe that I had anxiety, but she had never seen it like face to face, and like I said, my kids were in the back and they was like, Mom, it's okay. It's going to be all right. They was like, just deep breaths. A lady pulled over on the side of the road. She kind of knocked on the window. She was like, hey, is everything okay? And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm creating the scene. People are stopping. So it was just, it continued to build until it was like that one vision. Like I saw my husband, he was like, babe, he was like, listen, he was like, you got to calm down. He was like, because, it's going and going and going. And I had been sitting there like tears are running down my face. My mom kept wiping my face. And I was just like, and finally he told her, he was like, hey, you can't touch her. You have to let her move on her own to be able to know that she's able. And, you're still you. You can move out of the car. You can walk around the other side. You can get back into the car. Your mom's going to drive you. Like just little things like to pull me back down to let me know, hey, it's okay that you're crying. It's okay that you're having an anxiety attack, but we got to move from this spot.
Got you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Real quick, Abby, you also have your hand up in Zoom land. So.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that she said when someone else is in distress around you while you're having that panic attack or anxiety attack, it really doesn't help, and it makes you, like personally, it makes you feel worse because it's like, well, you're freaking out and I'm freaking out, so you're not helping me, and I feel like I'm making you worse because now you're hyperventilating because I'm in my own world trying to sort myself out. And I think that it really doesn't, like if you're someone who doesn't know how to help, then just be quiet and just have that shoulder or hand on that person. Like don't do anything except that. Because I think any other response other than not knowing it's not beneficial to either one of you.
That's an awesome share, Abby.
I'm telling you.
For sure. I think the big takeaway I put in the chat there for the group, my big takeaway from this share is that it's a lot of cumulative, Chief. It sounds like it's a lot of like cumulative stuff, and it just compounds, right? So it's just one thing after another, and then that sends you down a rabbit hole, and then it just kind of explodes. And getting a hold of it is a challenge for sure. So definitely having someone around you. You said, I think a couple slides ago, the importance of like knowing your feelings in that moment, right?
That's right. Yes.
Being able to, and like, I need to phone a friend right now because I have no idea what the ham sandwich is going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what to do, but my person, my friend, my community member, my peer needs help. And let me not panic and make it worse. Thanks for sharing, Abby and Jennifer. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you both. That was good. And that's again really important. Like I said, if not everyone's built for every situation, especially when it comes to a loved one. So we got to be careful that we don't make the situation worse. So you guys put out some really good information. Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's why Jake, when we do this, he teaches this block because he's experienced it and he can give that real world touch or feel to it. So, and as we saw, that's very important. So no greater teacher than real life experience. I'm here to tell you. Suicide prevention. So again, we talked about asking directly. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Someone that's thinking actually wanting to harm themselves, they will have a plan in place. They may not tell you. Sometimes they'll tell you if you ask. There's this misconception out there that we don't want to, let's try and find out if they want to hurt themselves, but let's not really talk about it too much because I don't want to plant the seed. That's a misconception. You have to hit them across the head and be forthcoming with the fact that we are talking about suicide here, someone's life, and I'm here to help you. And I want to know if you are you planning on killing yourself? Do you have a plan in place to do so? Very important question to ask right out the gate. We don't want to tap dance around it. Work together to keep them safe for now. Consider calling the National Suicide Prevention Line. Connect them with a professional. If you don't feel as though you can keep the individual or yourself safe, get help immediately. Very important. I can't help you if I'm in danger. And suicide can be one of those situations. So you got to make sure that the scene that you're involved with or that you're in is safe first. Once you know that, and again, with every situation, you're always checking in with the person you're trying to help, yourself, and the entire scene to make sure that, okay, things are still going in a positive direction. When you get that cue that says, okay, something's not right here, either with this person, myself, or the scene, it might be time to call in someone else to assist because you do not want to get yourself injured or hurt trying to help someone else. The goal ultimately here is to be a resource and to help this person, which we can't do if we either worsen or find ourselves getting injured in the process. So please be mindful of that. So here's the big one. Not everybody wants help, right? Again, not just because the stigma associated with mental illness or crisis. I think we as human beings, sometimes we just want to fix our own problems, whether or not we are capable of doing so. You can't tell us that. So, yeah, we don't always, and this is another issue that we have, folks. The most important thing we can do for someone that's in or suffering from mental illness is get them appropriate professional help immediately. And how do we do that? We do that by interjecting in positive resources early onset. When we see the problem, we don't ignore it. And again, we don't always have to be the one that interjects in helping this person, but we got to make a phone call. We got to call someone. We got to tap somebody on the shoulder that maybe can be a resource to this person. But to just turn the blinders on, shut the shades, put the car in drive, that's not the proper solution to our fellow man that finds themselves in crisis. So if the person does not want help, which they may not want help, and here is what we've been talking about: fear of being labeled, fear of getting into trouble, being viewed as liability, being seen as weak, being a burden on others, the cost of treatment. Yes, that there's always a cost. Nothing's free. And they may simply not be ready. That's probably one of the most important pieces here, folks, is I can't help you if you're not ready to be helped. I can promise you that. Nothing I can do for you in crisis, suffering from mental illness, if you're not ready to be helped. Nothing. You have got to buy into your own recovery, your own help. So unless this person is ready to be helped, nothing we can do, people. I'm here to tell you, speaking from personal experience, there's nothing we can do. So some possible solutions: recommend resources that can be accessed privately or at a later time. I'm sure in your state, your home state, there are a bunch of hotlines out there. And I think Tyler might mention some of that before we're done today. Some resources. We here in Yavapai County, through our Justice Mental Health Coalition, we actually, as a coalition, we went and we compiled all of our resources in Yavapai County. And we found, because this hadn't been done in years, we did this about 3 years ago, that a lot of our resources were outdated. Some of those companies weren't even in business anymore, so they couldn't help, or they just maybe had gone off to do other things. So in reconfiguring our contact sheet, we were able to put together a list on our webpage, the Yavapai County Justice Mental Health Coalition. All the resources you could think of that you might need in our county are at your beck and call with just a click of a link for both sides of our county. Something that was very necessary, needed to be done, should have been done a long time ago. I'm glad that the work was done. But again, it's an additional aid to our community members to help get them to the resources they might need sooner than later. And that is one of the most important pieces about this. Who wants to get help when you get on a website and you get the chain? Okay, click here for this. All right, cool, I'll click that. Click here if you need. All right, yeah, click that too. Where are you sending me to? Can somebody help me? You know what I'm saying? And that's what we kind of fixed here within Yavapai County. We made it like a one-stop shop for resources, whether it's mental illness, any kind of crisis response, food, housing. We put it all in one location, and we've even built an app that you can download to your phone to get to this resource information for the entire county. And now it's tracked and updated. So again, it's just things that we need to do as community members to make sure that our people are taken care of. Encourage them to speak with someone they trust. Never threaten the individual. We're not going to do that. Remain patient. Do not take it personally. Keep channels of communication open. So those are just some more possible solutions, you guys.
So Chief, before we go on really quick, I did want to give, so the resource, the one-stop shop resources that you guys built for Yavapai County, that's essentially like what Tidewater has done here through our Student Resource and Empowerment Center. And I did want to give Davian like a minute or two here to chime in on that particular topic. So Dee, can you unmute and excuse me, Mr. Armstrong?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Chief Payne, definitely don't want to take up too much of your time here because all of the information that you were giving is extremely relevant and needed and helpful. But I am the case manager for the Student Resource and Empowerment Center at the Chesapeake campus. I believe our wonderful Tyler has put down just the link there for our website there. One of the resources that we have that we just started is something called Timely Care. That is a new telehealth program for students that is free for students. You can use your student ID number to just go on to, and I believe that's link is going to be in the chat as well, to just go to their website and you can sign up to receive 7 free sessions to speak with the mental health professional. And as we know, sometimes, especially when we're dealing with some of these illnesses here and just a lot of life factors, we just need to speak to someone. So I'm so happy that we have this free resource for students where they can be connected. And it's something that you can schedule on your own time. You schedule the appointments, you say when you want to meet, when that fits in your schedule, just so it can be as accessible as possible. In addition to that, I'm kind of piggybacking off of what Sarah had mentioned before about a lot of those contributing factors to some of the kind of the mental stressors that we have. There's a lot of external factors that can contribute to a lot of the mental health issues that we have. And that's where the Student Resource and Empowerment Center definitely tries to come in and help. Some students are dealing with food insecurity. That's something people don't want to talk about, but it's really difficult to be mentally sound when you're worried about when your next meal is going to be. That's why we have the community feed, which is sponsored by the food bank, which is a free food resource for students to definitely help kind of supplant that need. In addition to that, just going academically, a lot of students come and they can have issues with their financial aid. And if anybody has come to college, we know the mental struggle that getting set up with financial aid can be. Well, if you're having those issues, we help students with their tuition, getting their textbook supplies, just additional supplies for class. And a lot of times students don't even know this is an option. So we really try to push out this information so that students can really focus on their own well-being. And then just those pure life factors a lot, paying for bills is definitely hard to focus on, just keeping yourself mentally safe when you're worried about keeping a roof over your head or making sure that the water or the lights stay on. That's something that we can definitely help with as well. So if you do need some help from these resources here at TCC, while it may not be some of the additional mental health resources as much as we can offer and kind of help those outside of life factors, we definitely want to do so. So that's my soapbox here. Thank you so much for everything that you are just adding. And I'm just hoping that we're going to get something huge from it. So thank you.
No, thank you. That was
Gavin.
amazing. Man, you guys got a great program going there. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we do. And it really does tie in with this. We were talking outside of this session, Chief Payne, about the fact that, those cumulative things, like it was even mentioned here, right? The cumulative things that just build that if you're so stressed about all this other stuff, it just makes your ability to cope with the thing that life hits you with so much harder.
That's right.
And it can just get overwhelming. And knowing that there's support and a essentially one-stop shop where people can go get these things is amazing. I commend your work in Yavapai County. That's just so awesome. All right, Mike's yours. I'm giving it back.
Nah, you're good. Thank you. Yeah. So, thank you guys for that. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing over there. We're in this together. Yes, we are. Whether we want to be or not, we are in this together. It's our community, it's our nation, and mental health, physical health. Switching more so today on mental health is very important. Our brains are the most powerful weapons we have within our bodies that we carry around with us day to day. We have to take care of that thing encased inside of our cranium. And it takes work, you guys. I'm here to tell you, it takes work every day. And it not just takes work, but it takes for you to actually care, not just about yourself, but for your community members. Again, when we see someone in crisis or someone suffering from mental illness, we shouldn't turn a blind eye. The difference between physical illness and mental illness is you can see physical illness. If you see someone walking up to a door and they're in a wheelchair, what are we more pressed to do for someone like that? Grab the door, right? Because we can see that physical disability. Mental illness is not always in our face until it manifests itself in some kind of an action. And then all of a sudden now we can see it. And then sometimes that action may be frightening to us. And that's okay. But that does not mean that we should turn a blind eye. That means we should call someone to assist this person because they're clearly in need of assistance. So it's very important. And yeah, we started that about 3 years ago. We recognized there was a need. We saw the increase in calls for service, not just law enforcement, but within our institution for those suffering from mental illness, whether it was drug-induced psychosis or just the stressors of life, anxiety, food disorders. And yeah, we were like, you know what? First of all, let's look and see what we have. We didn't even know what we had. Once we found out what we had, we started doing even more research and found out that half of it was outdated or that people were gone. So it was really nice when we finally got that situated and were able to offer that to our community. It was a huge effort. And yeah, I will pat us on the back for that one because that was a huge undertaking. It wasn't me specifically, it was our group. And getting that done allowed us to break up into more subgroups now and start working on other projects that we have regarding mental illness and the justice system within Yavapai County. So really good work. And there's the thank you sign. You guys, I really enjoyed this time with you this morning. I'm always available. There's my email address. Easier to get a hold of me by that. If anyone needs anything from me, please reach out to me. I don't care if it's just to say hello. Again, I'm from Philly. I love to talk. So thank you for this morning and I appreciate you. And please, everyone, take care of yourselves and stay well.
All right. Thank you so much, Chief Payne. I wanted to give anybody an opportunity to ask any questions they might have or share any feedback that they want. So you can certainly unmute yourself and move forward, or you can pop it in the chat, whatever's most convenient for you. I do have a question for you. A lot of our students here are pursuing public service or they are affiliated with the military in some way, shape, or form. And I know that a lot of military or public service professionals do not share the challenges that they are going through out of, you mentioned it on the previous slide, fear of being med boarded, ending their careers, etc. What advice would you give to someone that was in the public service realm or military based that had those fears? What would you communicate to them?
My communication to them would be, thankfully, the pendulum is swinging back the opposite way. For a long time, organizations feared hiring veterans. Again, I'm a veteran. I spent 10 years in the Army. And the pendulum is swinging. There's actually a shift in regards to PTSD being relabeled to PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury, so that it can be classed as something that a veteran can get treatment for. So thankfully, the behavioral health and mental health community is catching up to today's times, and trying to remove some of that stigma on veterans who have either gone to war, are back home, maybe suffer from mental illness or in crisis, or find themselves in need of certain circumstances to either get a job or move forward. I know a lot of agencies here in Yavapai County, honestly, are starting to recruit, actually physically go out to military installations and look for those veterans that are getting out and giving them job applications, because they recognize, which I don't know how it went away, but it did for a while. They're starting to again recognize the importance that our veterans play to our workforce. So I'm thankful for that. I was in a meeting, I think it was a week or two ago, when some agencies in the room were saying that they're going off to places like Fort Bliss, Fort Luke, or I'm sorry, not Fort Luke. Luke is an Air Force base. And they're actually going to start getting in touch with these veterans that are going to be ETSing here pretty soon, and trying to get them, maybe come to work for their agencies. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
I just know that it's definitely, from a professional standpoint, in the past, it has been kind of been a death knell, honestly, when you saying you have a lot of individuals that have to go through various security clearances, et cetera, and the minute that anything is flagged on that, like, oh, I suffer from anxiety, or I have, I love the term PTSI, like, that's incredible. Like, if that's something that you are going through, or that you have experienced, or a ramification of your service, like, that is something that's been such a negative impact to our service members, that having it swing the opposite direction is amazing. Can't get there soon enough, in my opinion.
No, it can't. And don't allow anyone to hinder you from moving forward with your life, or getting a job, or taking care of your family or yourself. There are laws that protect us from those kinds of acts. So please be aware that you are protected. No one can just say we're not going to hire you because you suffer from PTSI. I'm starting to call it, it's not there yet. It's shifting to PT. I call it PTSI now.
We're going to speak it into existence, Chief. That's what we're going to do.
We're going to speak it into existence. Exactly. So yeah, don't let anybody hinder your forward momentum, please.
Yes. Anybody else have any other questions, comments, concerns before we wrap it up?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
If you know somebody, or yourself needs the help, reach out to somebody, because I was that person that thought I was so strong and could handle I could take on the world. But I found myself like in this downward spiral, and it happened so quickly. I didn't even realize I was there. I was raising my 4 boys on my own. So going back and forth to work, and it just became routine. I tell a lot of people when I explain to them, I said I felt like I was on autopilot. Like I would just do the basics, like get up, take care of the kids, go to work, come home. I would feed my children, but it wouldn't be like actual food. It was like, here, eat this. I'm going to go in my room. I would fall asleep in my uniform for work, wake back up the next day, wash my face, brush my teeth, and get back at the house and be right back on autopilot. Put on a pretty face and smile for everybody, and then come home and like cry myself to sleep. And it took like a hard hit for me to realize that, hey, something else is happening. Something else is going on. And when I reached out to the Up Center. So when I began to speak to a psychologist, and I got help that I needed, so don't ever think that your strength lies in your physical strength. Like, you need that mental strength as well. Like, you need to be there for the people around you. And mostly you need to be there for yourself.
Yes. So Chief Payne, our theme for our Gear Up to Lead program here this year, which is similar to Yavapai college's presidential leadership retreat was successful survivors. And Jennifer has articulated what it means to be a successful survivor in one way, right?
Yes.
She is with us, and she is persevering and doing great things, but not without significant challenge. So we are stronger on the other side of the thing that we face. And Tyler shared a quote earlier, and I would like to close with that. I don't know who the quote is from, so he may have to pop in here and help me out on that. But the quote is, "Pain is temporary. It may last a minute or an hour or day or a year, but eventually it will subside and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it lasts forever." So Tyler, do you know who the quote is from?
You know,
Lance Armstrong.
Look at Abby coming in the clutch. There we go. Right? Persist. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Chief Payne, we deeply appreciate your time, and we hope that you feel better. On that note, we close things out in a particular kind of way because in Zoom land, everybody wants to say bye with their hands. So we'll close it out with some Zoom hands. Y'all stay safe, stay sane, and it's good talking to you as always. Bye.